Okay, so getting back into our coverage over the Ultimates, we do pick back up once again with Ultimates 2. Now, like I said in our last video, when it comes to the Ultimates 2 series, the main purpose of this series was to show that Nick Fury has been lying the entire time. You see, back in Ultimates 1, he kept telling everybody in the world that he was not going to use the Ultimates as a military force. Instead, his main goal was to use the Ultimates to protect America, but to also go after super villains, which again ties into protecting America. They were not going to be used as a military force against other countries at all. But when it comes to Ultimates 2 Volume 1, we had gotten a lot of different examples of him just flat out lying, because he did use the Ultimates in different kinds of situations around the world. And it's kind of showing the Ultimates now being used as a military force. And really, at the tail end of our last video, we saw him talk to a few members of the Ultimates, and they were about to go on another mission somewhere else in the world, once again showing they're being used as a military force. But when it comes to Nick Fury, he kind of realized that just having one team of Ultimates is not good enough. He needs multiple teams of Ultimates. And really, it was hinted back in our last video, because remember, when it came to Hank Pym, he was fired by S.H.I.E.L.D. because he gave Nick the one thing Nick wanted from Hank, which was the Giant Man Serum. And so now Nick is able to take that serum and give it to other people. And that starts a new project known as Goliath, where you're going to have giant men being able to be used against other countries around the world. But Nick is not going to stop there, because now we pick up in today's storyline where we see the Ultimates trying their best to handle a hostage situation on a plane. Now, once you have the Ultimates being able to take out the bad guys and then throw them off the plane, you have the guys be saved by three men who are wearing older versions of Iron Man suits, and they are called the Rocket Men. And so that shows that even Tony Stark has now begun the process of actually helping Nick kick off different kinds of projects that could possibly build other teams of Ultimates who could also be military teams to use against other countries around the world. And really, when it comes to Nick, he does not stop there at all, because as we dive into the next page, we see the other projects that Nick is currently working on. So for example, there is a project called the 4 Seasons, where you have 4 different characters who are going to wear suits that will give them abilities to use out in the field against other countries who are trying to attack America. But we also kind of find out there is someone else known as Lieberman who's going through the Super Soldier program. They're trying to create another Captain America, because this guy was able to actually take the serum, and he has shown that he's almost on level with Steve Rogers. And this is great, because if they are able to get him going, then the possibility of others are just down the road. Now, when it comes to Nick Fury, he knows there are going to be other countries out there in the world who are going to begin the process of trying to defend themselves against the Ultimates. Because if the Ultimates are going to be used as a military force, they're going to need some protection. And matter of fact, when it comes to Nick, he is confronted by Victor. Now, when it comes to Victor, he is the general from Russia, and he does express the idea that there are other countries who are very upset about the whole Ultimates program. Now, at first, those countries were okay with the first Ultimates team, because it seemed to them that team was put together because of 9/11. But now when it comes to Nick, he's now building more Ultimates just for the heck of it. And when it comes to Victor, that is not okay at all. And so you also have Victor say, you are breaking some rules when it comes to the United Nations, because apparently all countries had agreed to stop working on superhuman programs. But here's S.H.I.E.L.D. right now just going out of their way to create these different kind of super beings. Now, we do pick up with a guy known as Mr. Nix. Now, when it comes to Nix, apparently he's the best assassin in the entire world. But by this point, he had retired. But apparently somebody is trying to hire him and bring him out of retirement to go after Nick Fury. And this shows the fear of the idea that there are people worried that you're going to have all of these different countries begin the process of trying to build superhuman beings to use against each other. Is going to lead into possibly another war. And so when it comes to Nix, he's being hired to kill off Nick Fury. Now, we also get reminded that when it comes to the Ultimates, in the last video we did, they had to kill off Bruce Banner, because when it came to Bruce, he had killed off 800 people when he turned the Hulk back in Ultimates 1. And so he was put on trial, he was found guilty, and was given a death sentence. Now, when it came to the Ultimates, they had dropped a nuke on him, believing it would have killed him off. Well, now Nick gets word that apparently the Hulk is not dead, because you have different members of reserves out there across the world trying to handle different kinds of situations. And one of them responded to the idea of some kind of big beast just walking around. And that big beast was the Hulk. And so now Nick knows the Hulk has survived, and this could be a possible problem down the road. Now, when it comes to the Ultimates being out there, you're now having other people in the world who are very inspired to become heroes as well. But here's the problem. The Ultimates are well-trained heroes. These new people who are popping up, they're not trained at all, and most likely they could die down the road if they try to handle some big time situation. So for example, we now have the Defenders. Now, when it comes to this group, none of them have any abilities at all that could possibly help them out in the field. But they do claim to be well-trained fighters, and they want to be vigilantes. They want to go out of their way to protect the innocent people. But the problem is, again, they're not well-trained heroes. They have no abilities at all. And most likely, this team is going to get themselves killed, or possibly somebody else. And when it comes to Nick Fury, he is always trying to prove that the world needs the Ultimates. He's trying to justify his reasons of why the world needs them, because every single day a new threat pops up. But sooner or later, there are going to be multiple threats across the world. And unfortunately, the Ultimates cannot handle all those threats at once. And so that is why you need to have more and more members of the Ultimates. For example, there used to be a time and day where if you were hit with a nuclear wave, you were going to die from cancer. But now there's a possibility if you are hit with a nuclear wave, you could turn into a huge monster that is going on a rampage. And so when it comes to Nick, he's trying to prove this is just one reason why we need the Ultimates. Imagine a world where you have monsters popping up left and right across the world. Do you really think one team of Ultimates can handle all those different things at once? But now we have to jump back over to Mr. Nix. Now, when it comes to Nix, we see him meeting up with some guy who's handing him a very special kind of weapon. A weapon that was only in development by S.H.I.E.L.D. And S.H.I.E.L.D. had only made 2 of these weapons so far. And so when it comes to Mr. Nix, this weapon can be used as a way to take out Nick Fury. And he does plan on using that weapon to take out Nick. Now I want to shift our focus back over to Lieberman, because remember, when it comes to Lieberman, he was supposed to be another Captain America. But when it comes to Nick, he's telling Lieberman, yes, you may become another Captain America, but in reality, you could become the main Captain America, because you have Nick saying here, we don't know how long we are going to have Steve around. Steve could possibly die in the next 5 years or possibly sooner. Or there is the idea that he may turn evil. And so we have to be ready for anything. And so Lieberman, I want to tell you that you are going to become the next Captain America, because this is the first guy in 50 years to be able to take the super soldier serum and now be on level with Steve Rogers. And so now we are talking about having 2 Captain Americas in the world. Now here's the thing about the reserves, because remember, most of the reserves are given different kinds of suits or technology to be able to use different kinds of abilities or weapons out in the field. The only ones who actually do have abilities are the Goliaths and also Lieberman. Now, when it comes to the giant men, they're being kept on base, but the others, they're allowed to leave the base and go out at night to have some fun. And so we do go the 4 seasons, the Rocket Men and also Lieberman. Now, while hanging out, they see a bunch of fire trucks heading over to a location where there is a huge fire. Now, when it comes to Lieberman, he wants to help out, but the rest of the team can't because the Rocket Men don't have their armor suits. When it comes to the 4 seasons, they don't have their power suits. And so Lieberman has to go on his own. But apparently something happened to him when he tried to help out the firefighters with that fire, because you have Nick get a call saying, hey man, you need to come back to base. And once you have Nick arrive at the base, we come to find out that Lieberman had died. Something with the super soldier serum shut down his entire body, his brain, his organs. He just died right then and there. He did not even make it inside the fire at all to start helping out the firefighters to save the innocent people. And so now you have Nick going back to the drawing board, now trying to find somebody else who could possibly be that second Captain America. But now we have to jump back over to Mr. Nix. Now, when it comes to Nix, he's about to take the shot to kill off Nick Fury to make the world a better place. But here's the thing, Nix gets a call from the lady who gave him the job, and she tells him, hey, listen, I know who hired you. The person that hired you was Nick Fury. And by the time Nix hears those words, Nick Fury has a gun pointing right at him and takes a shot, killing off Mr. Nix. And the reason why Nick had hired Nix is because Nick's saying there are going to be people out in the world who are going to try to kill me for many different reasons. And those kind of people like Mr. Nix, who are great assassins, I have to go ahead and go out of my way to take them out now so that they will not be a problem down the road for me. Now, the next chapter is really going to focus on Hank Pym, because by this point in the Ultimates 2 series, Hank Pym has lost his wife. He has lost his job at S.H.I.E.L.D. He was let go from the Ultimates. He had officially hit rock bottom in his standards. And so for Hank, he's kind of wondering, where can he go next? And so he joins the Defenders. Now, like I said earlier, when it comes to the Defenders, they are a group of nobodies. They have no abilities at all, and they're going around lying to the world that they have powers, or at least they have some kind of training in fighting, but they don't. And so for Hank, he's kind of wondering, what's the point on being this team right here, a team of nobodies? Now, this is also the moment where you have Hank Pym introduce the idea of Ant-Man being able to shrink down in size, the opposite of Giant Man. And he'll be the only person on the entire team who has powers. But he's trying his best to see how far this team can actually go. Now, even though Hank had joined the Defenders, he's still trying to rejoin S.H.I.E.L.D. at least. He knows that he can't join the Ultimates because Well, he's well known across the world as a wife beater, but he wants to at least rejoin S.H.I.E.L.D. by showing Nick different kinds of projects that he has been working on. So for example, Ultron and also Vision. But when it comes to Nick, he does not want anything from Hank at all. He tells Hank, leave. Just leave the base completely. You're not getting your job back at all. You have been officially let go. Goodbye. Now, when it comes to Hank, on his way out, he runs into his ex-wife. And this really sucks. And the reason why? Because now she can see him at rock bottom. Now, he lies to her, but we know that he has hit rock bottom. Now, when it comes to Hank, while he is leaving, the Vision robot actually does flirt with Scarlet Witch, and that is going to be very important for Ultimates 3. Now we have to jump back over to the Defenders. Now here's the thing, because these guys got a great idea. When I say a great idea, I really mean a dumb idea. You see, when it comes to the Defenders, they want the world to know about them. And so one of the members of the group says that his cousin got word that a bunch of guys are about to rob a nearby warehouse. If the team is able to stop them on camera and give that footage over to a news channel, then the world is going to know about them and begin to take them more seriously. Now, here's the problem, because like I said earlier, this team, they don't have any abilities at all except Hank Pym with the Ant-Man ability. And besides that, none of them have proper training when it comes to fighting. But now they are about to go out somewhere and try to stop some guys who may have weapons and possibly get killed or just seriously hurt. And honestly, that's what happens next, because when it comes to the Defenders, when they do try their best to stop the group of guys who are trying to rob that warehouse, well, those guys, one, have weapons, and two, they were able to easily overcome the Defenders. Now, you had Nighthawk going first, believing that he should be able to pull off a surprise attack, and the rest of the team should have moved in. But the problem is, Nighthawk failed when it came to the surprise attack. And then you had those guys beat down on Nighthawk to the point where he becomes seriously injured. And so then you have other members like Valkyrie try to run in to hopefully stop those guys. But again, she has no powers or fighting skills at all. So Hank Pym has no choice but to go ahead and become Giant Man once again to stop those guys. But then a picture was taken of him naked and put on the front page. But here's the problem, because now the world knows that one, Hank Pym has hit rock bottom, that he joined the Defenders, a loser group basically. And on top of that, now Nighthawk is in the hospital. And so for Hank, he's wondering how low can he truly go? Now, when it comes to Hank Pym, he does go home for the day. And once he's able to go home, he is confronted by somebody. Now, this somebody is actually the traitor to the Ultimates, the person that has been sharing all the different secrets about the Ultimates to the world. So Hank knows about the traitor, but apparently this traitor is now informing Hank about what the Ultimates have now become. They're now a military force because they had just attacked another country. They had just crippled another country, a third world country. And that is going to be huge. And you're going to see how in later chapters, in later videos. And so with that being said, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.